your chairs right now. Go to
Where
the
you
window.
going? I want to see if anybody's
Just
yelling.
That wall.
open it and stick your head out and yell.
Feel
and
that
keep
wall.
yelling.
Feel that wall.
I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take this anymore!
Thank you very much.
Given it is election year, I want to do two videos. The first will be looking at Plato's warning on the theatre and how it relates to Trump's buffoonery. And the second will be on fake news as a kind of fetish. Kinky. So in this video we will be looking at Plato's criticism of imitation and representation in the form of theatre. Plato's Republic features criticisms of the arts and performed poetry in particular, or, as it is known today, theatre. You see, in Plato's day, theatre was considered a form of poetry. Now, all of the criticisms you will find directed toward the theatre and to representation, imitation, or mimesis are made by the character of Socrates. And I say the character of Socrates because while Socrates was a real person, the events of the Republic were not real. It's very much a staged dialogue. In Plato's dialogues, Plato never speaks with his own voice. He does not speak as Plato. Many would hold that Socrates' criticisms featured in the Republic are really Plato's. That's a controversial point, and there are scholars who think Plato is being ironic, that Socrates' criticisms of the theatre are not meant to be taken too seriously. Even if we take Socrates in the Republic to be Plato's mouthpiece, the criticisms proffered by Plato/Socrates are complex. And I won't focus on all of them, or even most of them. Very often, we think of Plato as simply banning all poets. But rather, Plato claims that there's a difference between tragic theatre and other forms of poetry. The character of Socrates expresses no problem with, in fact he praises, odes to the gods. I want to look at the idea that, according to Socrates, imitation is often not about truth, but about a kind of play. As well as his criticisms that theatre concerns exaggerated feelings that get the spectator worked up. In Socrates/Plato's words, the painter, we say, will paint for us a shoemaker, a carpenter, and the other craftsmen, although he doesn't understand the arts of any of them. Art tends to be a representation of something, according to Plato/Socrates. Famously, Socrates quips that imitation, or mimesis, is in fact thrice removed from truth. What is particularly dangerous about theatre and some art forms is that these art forms tend to encourage us to prefer a heightened display to the truth itself, while the imitator knows nothing worth mentioning about what he imitates. Imitation is a kind of play and not serious. You might be thinking of all the times Trump makes gaffes, the way that Trump claims to know more than others.
I know more about the other side than almost anybody.
I know more about steelworkers than anybody that's ever run for office.
I know more about contributions than anybody.
I know more about politicians than anybody.
I know more about courts than any human being on earth. I know more about renewables than any human being on earth.
I understand money better than anybody.
Many of his fans presumably enjoy this. Just as liberals are kind of entertained by watching Trump fail, his fans kind of look at Trump's obnoxious displays as funny, as attempts to trigger for liberals. Trump, like a tragedian, is concerned with drama, and he is very good at creating drama.
If crooked Hillary got elected, you would not have a Second Amendment, believe me. You'd be handing in your rifles. You'd be saying, here they are. You go like... You'd be turning over your rifles.
Remember in one of the debates when Trump would follow Hillary Clinton around the stage, creating drama, creating tension. Socrates is particularly critical of the tragic poets. He's clear that drama entails conflict, and as such, tragedy ought to entail things going wrong. Socrates explains that the irritable disposition affords much and varied imitation, unlike the prudent and quiet character, who can neither be easily imitated nor, when imitated, easily understood, especially by a festive assembly. Trump understands that he is on television, and that in order to get attention, he must, as it were, enhance the drama.
So, we're gonna build it. Who's gonna pay for the wall? 100%. By the way, 100%.
Recall that moment in a debate when he said to Hillary Clinton that if I were president, you'd be in jail.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
It has become a Republican convention rallying cry. Lock her up.
Such a remark elicited jeers and cheers from the audience, and it was almost as if we were no longer watching a debate, but a moment from the Roman Colosseum or Jerry Springer. Plato anticipates such a situation. Socrates warns that when we hear Homer or any of the other tragic poets imitating one of the heroes in mourning and making quite an extended speech with lamentation, or if you like, singing and beating his breast, you know that we enjoy it and that we give ourselves over to it, following the imitation, suffering along with the hero.
Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat.
Virtually every top Democrat also now supports taxpayer-funded abortion right up to the moment of birth, ripping babies straight from the mother's womb.
To properly understand Plato and Socrates' critique of the theatre, we should remember a few things. One is that in the time that Plato wrote, tragedians would go to different city-states and attempt to perform tragedies. In fact, they would often be invited by tyrants to perform tragedies. So Socrates tells us that tragic poets would flatter tyranny. Not only that, but it's worth recalling that the central characters in a tragedy usually are tyrants. As such, tragedies took tyrants as their central characters the characters you ultimately ended up empathizing with, it's worth recalling that Trump, of course, had a lot of experience with reality television.
Who will succeed? Who will fail? And who will be the apprentice?
In the reality TV show The Apprentice, Trump acts as a tyrant on a corporate level.
I just don't want somebody running one of my companies that's going to get beaten up so badly, you're fired.
Mr. Trump,
Now, let me ask you this. He's knocking Stephanie, and you want him to stop knocking Stephanie. I'm starting to think that maybe you should be fired. What do you think about that?
Mr. Trump, that's
why wouldn't you let him go? Let me ask you this, Michael. He's killing her. He's going after her. She should be fired, according to him. And you're trying to stop him from talking.
Because Mr. Trump, I was...
Hey, look, you claim to be like me. The difference is I work hard. You've been lazy. You've been nothing but trouble. And now you cut them off as they're fighting each other for who should be fired. Michael,
yes,
Michael.
Yes, sir.
You're fired.
He fires people. He grills people, and he gives speeches. He is shown as having authority. He is shown as being powerful. As such, we as an audience are expected to admire his power, his authority. Similarly, in his appearances in movies and his appearances in wrestling, he comes off as a strong figure. A figure who is iconic, who represents the interests of the people. In his current role as the president, Trump is able to emote, and it is through emoting that the audience also plays along. However, there's something sinister about playing along, for it treats real people as though they were part of a game, as though they were part of theater.
And some, I assume, are good people.
Who's gonna pay for the wall? For the wall.
So the great danger of tragedy and the great danger of drama is that ultimately politics becomes sucked into the drama. We might recall the horrific racism and the spikes in racist hate crimes that occurred when Trump was elected president. Why is it that we prefer imitation to truth, entertainment to truth, representation to truth? After all, Trump's supporters aren't really interested in how much money he actually has, whether he is as wealthy as he claims to be. What they like is the way that Trump represents himself. They aren't really interested in whether he is a good Christian or not.
I'm wondering what one or two of your most favored Bible verses are,
Well,
and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal, so I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into...
What they're interested in is him as a persona. So why is it that we tend to prefer entertainment to truth? Why is it that Trump supporters prefer entertainment to truth? Plato and Socrates do not give direct answers to this question. Obviously, entertainment is easier to understand than complicated ideas and issues. We know we are meant to feel angry or amused, and straight facts don't really have a place for us as participants. We can't imitate facts. The world is complex, and so how are we meant to react to that complexity? Stories can tell us. Drama can tell us.
But for you to say that there was nothing wrong with you deleting 39,000 emails, again, you should be ashamed of yourself. What you did, and this is after getting a subpoena from the United States Congress.
We have to move on.
If you
Secretary
did that-
Clinton, you can
wait a minute,
respond, and then
one
we got to
second.
move on.
We
If
want
you
to
did
give the
that in
audience
private sector,
a
you'd
chance
be put
here.
in jail, let alone after getting a subpoena from the United States
Secretary
Congress.
Clinton, you can respond, then we have to move on to an audience question.
Look, it's just not true, and so please go
you didn't delete him?
Allow her to
delete
respond,
him?
please.
Personal emails, not official.
33,000?
Well, we turned over 35,000, so it was.
What about the other 15,000?
Please allow her to respond.
But there's another possible explanation found in the Republic. In Plato's famous allegory of the cave, prisoners are forced to watch shadows on the wall. Because they are conditioned to believe the shadows are real, because they are made to see only shadows, perhaps we could be reminded here of Facebook and YouTube algorithms. The prisoners prefer these shadows to the truth. Moreover, these shadows allow the prisoners to hide from the fact that they are trapped, that they are prisoners. So that even if someone were to tell them the truth, they would react with hostility and even attack the person telling them the truth. In the story of the cave, a prisoner escapes, discovers a world outside of the cave, but the prisoners do not want to listen to the person who has escaped. They may, it is speculated in the dialogue, even kill the person telling them the truth. In short, partisan politics can be summed up in a nutshell in a text written in the 4th century BCE. Rather than looking at those who buy into fake news and Trump's crazy rants as just stupid or ill-informed, perhaps we should recognize that part of the appeal of entertainment is that it provides escapism and participation when there isn't much that we can actually do to change the system.
Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter.
If people are trapped by the situation, what good are the facts? Remember that Trump won over a number of people who voted for Obama twice in places like Flint, Michigan. Part of the ambiguity of Plato's text is that despite attacking the theatre, it is staged as a dialogue. So the text uses theatre and metaphor and allegory to get us engaged in pursuing the truth. The text itself is arguably a drama. And there's something almost theatrical about the dialogue, as pointed out by the scholar Martha Nussbaum. So the text uses theatre, metaphor and allegory to get us engaged in pursuing the truth. So maybe we should start thinking about picking a candidate who is both truthful and knows how to stage a rally. A candidate who wants to pursue the good, but knows how to appeal to our emotions and lead us out of the cave. It's time for Bernie Sanders. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and consider donating on Patreon. Thanks so much.